I'm here to share my story of how I feel that our emotional trauma, especially guilt and feelings of worthlessness, along with pain, grief, and loneliness, many of these things that we're not even aware of on a conscious level, manifest themselves as physical ailments in our body. They usually have a meaning tied behind the ailment that we're suffering from, giving us clues to figure out what the root cause is. Many others, such as Dolores Cannon, have shared this, but I could never relate it to real life, as there was never really an example until I actually lived through it. So almost a year ago, I was led to make an appointment with a psychic medium. I'd never had a reading before, but a friend of mine wanted to go. It was her birthday, and all these different circumstances ended up to where we got an appointment the very next day with the psychic at the time she was coming. It was almost unreal. So we got this appointment. I really didn't prepare anything for it. I just thought, well, whatever will come through will come through. My mom, my grandpa, and my uncle died in the last 4 years. They were the only family that I had left. I also went through a divorce at the same time. So I've had a lot of grief, to say the least, and very much have struggled with this and being able to move on with my life. During the midst of the deaths, I started exhibiting symptoms of having some autoimmune and skin issues, severe seborrheic dermatitis, almost like a buildup on my skin. My lymph nodes weren't able to filter out the toxins in my body. My thyroid wasn't working. So I've very much struggled, getting no help from the medical community. So my mom passed away 3.5 years ago from stomach cancer. She had a large tumor the size of a grapefruit by the time it was found. My mom and I were never very close. I mean, we were close, but we were never great at communicating, I should say. She was never one to share her past or her feelings at great length. My mom came through immediately when the reading began. The psychic said, she's telling me, laugh. She's telling me, funny, I'm funny. And I sat there and I thought, well, you've got the wrong mom, because my mom was always very, very stoic in the sense that she never, it was always like, felt like she was angry at me. I saw her being funny and, charming with other people, but she was never that way to me, and I think I always had some resentment because of it. So immediately I was like, oh, here we go again, funny mom, which I never saw. As she went on, she said that my mom was holding on to a great deal of pain from when she was either a teenager or a young adult, and she was never able to let that go. And because I was, of course, close with her, being her child, you always show your true feelings to the ones that are closest to you. So my mom was explaining how she held on to that when she was here, and she regrets it. Most significantly, she said she regrets it most because, this is in quotes, none of this is real, end quote. Now, being where she is, she's happy, she's free. And because she can let that go now, she is funny, and she can laugh, and she can joke. Do you think it's a coincidence that my mother died from having a tumor in her stomach the size of a grapefruit? She held on and held on to all that pain, and that's how it manifested itself. After she spoke about these things, the psychic started taking her index finger on the table, and she was tracing her finger in the shape of an oval over and over again on the table. And she said, "What is this?" And I looked at her and I saw her finger just moving on the table in the shape of an oval. I said, what is what? She said, your mom is showing me something. She's showing me, I think it's a pendant, a silver pendant in the shape of an oval. What is this? How is this significant to you? I burst into tears. My mom knew she was passing, several months before she died. And my stepdad and my mom and I went to the funeral home together to plan her funeral. And they had these brochures on the table which had these remembrance pendants that were called thummies. And my stepdad bought me one. My mom had her fingerprint taken of her thumbprint, and my stepdad gave it to me after my mom passed away. So it's the pendant that I wear with my mom's thumbprint. That's oval and silver, which has her name engraved on the back and the dates of her death and her birth. I was not wearing this pendant at the psychic reading. There's no way the psychic could have ever known about the pendant. We put all this together, and my mom, I didn't even get it at first. I didn't even realize what she was telling me yet, I mean, it was months and months later that I put this all together. The reason she showed me the pendant is because she wanted me to understand that there is no way that this is anyone else but her. That was her validation. So I couldn't look back and say, well, who knows if it was real? Who knows if it was my mom? There's no way. There's no way. It's impossible. She wanted me to know that I cannot move on in life holding all of this grief, holding this pain, trauma from rejections, trauma from childhood, trauma from thinking that you're not good enough, that it's just, we are set up in this matrix and we're almost designed to feel these terrible, terrible things that we can't be happy and move on. And my mom was a perfect example of that. She died from stomach cancer. The pain inside her, she couldn't get rid of. She couldn't share it. She never let go of it. And it manifested itself in a giant tumor that took her life. And this was how she could share this information with me so that I would understand it and without a doubt try to change that cycle. And she didn't want me to go through the same thing that she went through. When I look back and all my skin and autoimmune symptoms started to present itself, it was right after my grandpa died and while my mom was dying. I took care of my mom at home for 3 months while she died. I used to be a hospice nurse. So I lived with her in her home and took care of her every single night, every single day. It was extremely, extremely hard to watch her go through this, but I would have never had it any other way. It's what she wanted. She wanted me there and I was there. That's when the symptoms were at their worst. And I think that my higher self, God, in attempts to try to protect myself from the pain it was about to experience, was creating a thick skin per se. It was creating a barrier to shield itself from the trauma I was about to experience. So I feel we have the power to heal ourselves. I had went through dozens and dozens and dozens of doctor's visits, prescribed several different things, and nothing working for me. Only since I have recently begun to accept all of this information I've told you about, only since then have I began to see some improvement. By letting go of some of this deep emotional pain, only then have my physical symptoms begun to lessen. we need to heal ourselves. We have the power to heal ourselves. Love is the answer again. Forgiveness, love, forgiving ourselves. We are our hardest critics, and until we can forgive ourselves and just accept who we are and just love and forget all of the negativity. I mean, the idea of love, having the thought of love, just knowing it, being in that, deflects the negative frequencies. It's kind of a proven science at this point. It's our intentions. So only being in that state can essentially heal us. I'm hoping that if anybody sees this, it might give them some clarity as to what may be going on in their own lives as well. I think it's more common than we think. Thanks for bearing with the music. Melt With You was my mom's favorite song, so I had to give a shout out. Mom, I miss you, love you, think about you every day. Thank you for watching, and unite in love.